I see some people coming in. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's quite rainy here in the Atlanta, Decatur area, so I hope wherever you're joining us from, you're inside, maybe a little bit cozy. We're going to give it just a few more minutes before we get started. Feel free to introduce yourself if you want to share where you're joining us from in the chat. We'd love to know. Okay, I feel like we're ready. Thank you again, everyone, so much for joining us on this Wednesday evening virtually here at Agnes Scott for our workshop Wednesday on preparing for the college essay. Stick around. We're also going to share some information about those supplemental pieces, your short answer questions, which are specific to Agnes Scott as well. So we have hopefully some good information for y'all to share and to help guide you on your quest of a college essay. My name is Faith Rashidi-Yazd. I am an alum from the class of 2020. I am an assistant director here in the Office of Admission, and I work with students kind of up along the East Coast, North Carolina, the New England area, and then also Gwinnett County here in Georgia. I'm also joined by one of my lovely colleagues.
Hi, everyone. My name is Logan Felton. I'm one of the admission counselors on the team. I work with some of our international students, as well as students in the southwestern portion of the United States. So if you're from Texas or California or anywhere in between, you'd be one of my students. And I see people are trickling in, kind of joining us here on Zoom. I know in the last few years, we've all gotten very familiar with Zoom, but this is a Zoom webinar, meaning you won't be able to unmute or share your screen and show your video. But that doesn't mean that we don't want to participate with you. We really want to hear from you. So if you have comments, feel free to put them in the chat. And if you have questions, you can also put them in the chat or put them in our question and answer box, and we would be happy to answer those questions throughout the presentation. I see we've got a hand raised, so definitely feel free if you've got questions, concerns, or want to chat, feel free to put anything in the chat that you're interested in.
Awesome. I think we're ready to jump into it.
All right.
The first place we want to start tonight is thinking about why the college essay matters. Before we kind of dive into how you can start to write your college essay, how you can start to think about things that you want to write about in your college essay, it's great to take a step back and start with, why does it even matter? What's the point of writing this college essay? So in your college application, you are going to have quite a few different pieces kind of make up your application. You're going to have your high school transcript and letters of recommendation. And all of these different pieces are going to be other people speaking about you or sharing information about your high school experience. But this college essay is the place where you really get to share who you are in your own voice. It's a time where you get to share your own unique perspective and really expand on all of the different pieces that make you you in your own writing and in your own voice. This is also a really great space to think about sharing some new information that maybe isn't included in other pieces of your application. And so again, your application is made up of all sorts of different parts, but if there is something that you did that was really exciting or cool in high school and you feel like you want to share and expand on that, or if there was a transformative experience that you feel like just isn't showing up in your application, this is a space to share that information. It's also a really great place to really start to think about your high school experience. What sort of things really stood out to you, and are informing what your decisions are as you're moving into the college space. And so it's a great time to kind of synthesize, think about your values, synthesize your high school experience, and ultimately start to understand how you're going to fit in on a college campus. So what kind of things are important to you as a person, and how do you feel like you're going to really make a great match for a college community and a college campus? So all of these things are really coming together to make this a really important piece of your application. It's a part where you'll want to spend a lot of time thinking about what might stand out about your high school experience and what you might want to write about. And we're here to kind of guide you through that process. So what are we looking for specifically here at Agnes Scott? What are we looking for in that college essay? Obviously, it's an essay, it's a written piece. Grammar is an important piece. At Agnes Scott, we are not looking to nitpick. I always say we are not English teachers, and we did not choose to be English teachers. That's not our profession. So we're not gonna be looking for every comma to be in a perfect place or things like that. But you do want to have a really great foundation of grammar that is ultimately going to let your content shine through. So you want to make sure that your essay is reading in a way and grammatically correct enough that grammar is not a concern, and your content is really allowed to do the speaking for you. That being said, storytelling is a really great thing to kind of be thinking about in your college essay. I think it is really important to be able to take people on a journey and tell a story that really matters to you and to who you are. So this is a great space to really exercise all of those storytelling abilities and expand on some pieces of your high school experience. And then ultimately, what we're really looking for is writing that is going to stand up well in a first-year English class. And so Agnes Scott is a liberal arts college, but a really important piece of attending a liberal arts college is having a good foundation of writing and communication skills. So if you're in an English course, you're going to exceed and do well, but also if you're taking a biology course or a public health course, you're still going to be able to need to express your ideas and be able to communicate effectively. And so we're looking for essays that are going to do well in a first year writing course. This is a great space. We shared some great foundational information about thinking about the college essay. I want to open it up and see if there's any questions about maybe what we're looking for at Agnes Scott, or why the college essay matters. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the Q&A. We would love to answer questions there. But yeah, I wanted to open it up and see if we have any questions. Logan, I do have a question for you. Thinking back to your high school years, what was your college essay on? What did you write about?
That is a good question. Although it was a long time ago, I remember writing my college essay about how much I loved my world history class, and how learning about how individual like people and how like group themes could change the course of history. I wrote about how that made me really want to study political science. What about you? What did you write your college essay about?
I wrote my college essay about, it feels a long time ago now to think about, thinking back to my senior year of high school. But I wrote my college essay on my love for 60s music. I really felt very strongly about 60s music when I was a senior in high school, which I say and laugh a little bit now because I think if I could go back, I would maybe ask myself to go a little deeper with that idea. Sure, we all love music. We all have a genre of music that we like. But I think I probably could have come to some stronger conclusions than that. Or I think that I maybe had some more stories to tell than my love of 60s music. And I think that's often true with students. Y'all are so cool. You do so many amazing things, or even I think you have so many great ideas or takes on the world or things that are really important to you that you really care about and are passionate about. And so this essay is a space to share all of those and explore an idea that maybe is really important to you, or to write about something that you're really passionate about. And it might be music. Music is a great thing, but I would challenge you to push yourself, go a little bit further than I did my senior year of high school.
Yeah, that is a really good point. And now that we're on the topic, let's talk about what types of things that you can write a college essay about and how to build a really strong college essay. So when it comes to brainstorming topics of what on earth your college essay should be about, we have a brainstorming activity that you can do to kind of help jog your mind about important things that you may want to include in your college essay. So our activity is making 3 lists, and these lists can help you kind of narrow down the things that are important to you that you may want to share about in your college writing. List 1 is listing 10 objects that mean a lot to you. This doesn't have to be anything particularly special, just objects in your life that have a significant meaning to you. It could be important gifts that you receive for a birthday or a holiday. It could be one of your favorite foods, or a souvenir that you got from a field trip or a family trip. These are just items that you can use as a launching point to talk about an experience, a value, or a characteristic in your college essay. List number 2 is listing, again, those important values that are important to you currently and would be important for your college community to share. I'm sure you all have done some research about the different types of colleges you're applying to in their communities. And you might find some things that you align with and maybe don't align with. So this is a really great time for you to start thinking about what's important to you and values that you want your community to share. For example, is it really important that your college community be very forthcoming and a very honest environment where people feel free to share and express how they want? Is it important to you for have a really collaborative environment instead of a competitive college environment? So those are some cool things to have in mind, not only to help you make that college decision, but also that you can share in an essay to help an admissions officer like myself see if our school is going to be a good fit for you. And lastly, one of my favorite lists to make is just 10 facts about you. These are the kinds of facts that you would include in a get to know you activity. Things like how many siblings do you have? What do you like to do on the weekends? What are some of your favorite books? Things so you can really help round out who you are as a person and your experience as a student. After you've written these 3 lists, what you'll want to do is take some time away from them, go do another activity, think about anything else besides college essays. But when you're ready, return to that college essays, look at this list, and find the different themes that come up. Are there things that are in common between these 3 lists? Those might be really cool things that you can bring in to connect in your college essay and write a really strong essay that's about a specific item or experience that embodies your values and the things that you're interested in. And then the comment application actually helps you in this process. While you'll have specific topics and ideas in mind that you want to share, the comment application will also give you prompts that you can use to kind of help jog your mind about what types of topics that you'd like to write about. The Common Application actually has 7 different prompts, and one of them is a choose your own adventure or write about whatever you're interested in or share any idea that you would like to share. But those 7 prompts are on a variety of different topics, but they're all very intentionally broad. The idea is that they are a launching point for you to share about an experience that's significant to you, rather than trying to answer a specific question. For example, one of the prompts that was included in last year's Common Application was this: the lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? This is a really common topic that people and students choose because it's a really great opportunity for you to share about an experience, how it affected you, what you learned from it, and most importantly, how it's informed what you want to do in the future, whether that be at college or beyond. A lot of prompts are very similar to this type of prompt, but I want to make sure that you know that there's no preference between the different prompts in writing your college application essay. They're all set up to be really solid foundations for an essay, and no matter what topic you choose, we're really excited to learn more from you. So I'm going to turn it over to Faith to talk about how to create a really strong and really solid college essay, no matter what topic you choose.
Yeah, so you might have taken a screenshot of the brainstorming activity that Logan highlighted. You might have gone through, kind of pulled out some important themes, and started writing. I think something that always really I like to emphasize is that it takes time to write a solid college essay. It takes many different drafts, and it takes writing about something and having something really stand out to you, and then scrapping that and writing a whole new essay on that specific piece, and many iterations. I think it also takes other people helping you proofread it and making sure that your voice is really the voice that's shining through. Ultimately, you want an essay that no one else could write. Like I mentioned before, we're hearing from other voices about who you are and about who you are in the classroom or what you maybe spent your time doing. But we want to hear from you in this piece, you specifically, not who you think you should be or what you think colleges are looking for, but ultimately something that really is kind of speaking to who you are as a person and that nobody else could share. We're also looking for some sort of logical organizations. I think there are many different ways to go about this. There are many different structures that make sense. And a lot of it will have to do with the content that you're writing about. If you're writing in a more lyrical or poetic way, it might make sense to have it structured differently. But ultimately, you want to make sure that things are flowing, that if you're telling a story, you have some sort of introduction, a body, and then a conclusion, that we're able to make logical sense and logical connections through the information and the content that you're sharing. And then at the end, you want to be drawing some really strong conclusions. And so you want to bring it home and share ultimately what you learned from this experience, or what you're going to have kind of pull you forward into your college community. And so making those really strong conclusions at the end, answering questions like, so what? Or tell us your why. Why does it matter? Why is this experience important to you? Maybe not explicitly saying this is why, or this is what I learned, but making sure you're in some way making those conclusions in this college essay is very important. And as you're kind of thinking about, we want to kind of go through some different topics that you can really kind of hone in and make your own experience. And so again, moving from the brainstorming activity that Logan mentioned, you might start to come up with some things that you feel like are really important to your college or your high school experience that you really want to bring into college, something that really had an impact on you, thinking about all those sorts of things. And so we're going to provide a few examples of how you might be able to really almost zoom in on your experience, add some more details, and then go from there. So our first example is sports, dance, or cheer taught me the value of hard work. And so this, I think, is really great. We can see that there is a value here. There's something that you think is really important, maybe something that you're passionate about. There's also something that you really enjoyed in this experience. And so those two things are kind of coming together. But you probably want to be able to zoom in a little bit, be able to add some more details, some more information, so that we get to know you as a person and what specifically is being really important to you. And a few edits to this more general idea might be basketball helped me realize my love for statistics because of the data I'd collected for my team. And so you can see, again, the things that are really standing out here is a passion that this student had, and something that they're really interested in. And I think the really kind of crux of this sentence is that because part, it really highlights the why, and why you might be able to write the rest of your essay about this idea of basketball. Oh, Logan, you're on mute.
Thank you, thank you. I was saying on a similar topic of writing about some of your extracurricular experiences and how you spend time after school. You may choose to write about and say like reading and writing are some of my favorite pastimes. And we love that. I love reading and writing. And of course, being a liberal arts college, reading and writing are such important parts of the Agnes Scott experience. So this is a great topic, but there are a lot of things that we can do to make this idea more specific so that a student stands out and has some individuality in their college essay. So a stronger idea might be the thing I enjoy most about writing is the creativity. Every time you start with a blank page, this same creativity will be an asset in college classrooms, boardrooms, and any leadership roles I take in the future. My favorite thing about this idea is that it talks about the students' interests and what they like doing, but explains why that it's so important to them and why they enjoy it. And the best part, it talks about how their interest is going to inform what they do in college and beyond.
Yeah, our next example is I learned the importance of giving back during a mission trip, summer camp, community service project, etc. Again, this is starting with a really great idea, starting with that experience that you had that was really impactful to who you are as a person. I think a great way to sort of piece together your ideas and think about things a little bit differently is to start to think on a broader picture. How do you interact with some maybe overarching systems? And so to zoom in a little bit, now I look at every interaction I have with someone experiencing homelessness completely different. I focus on the greater overarching problem of affordable housing and what I can do to help. So this really highlights not only the experience that this person probably had in some sort of community service project, but also then highlights what they learned on it and how they're interacting with some overarching systems and what they feel like they're able to take from it. I think a really important piece of thinking about maybe the more general ideas on the first side is then thinking about how are you specifically in your identity and who you are interfacing with those ideas. What are you bringing specifically that's unique to how you might be holding those values or experiencing that piece, and kind of bringing in all of those different pieces of your high school experience.
And finally, our last prompt is a response to a really common topic that students choose, which is talking about someone who inspires them or someone who they admire. So this more general idea is, I am the person I am today because of my mom. Just great. We love moms and we love to hear about them. But we really want to hear a little bit more specific about like why a student's specific relationship with their individual mom has inspired them and what it is about that relationship that's so inspiring. So a stronger idea might be, my mom has made me confident in my own Mexican American identity because of her investment in Mexican tradition, coupled with her involvement in our local government. She motivates me to care about both things. This is really strong because it talks about exactly what characteristics in that leader or admired person are inspiring the student. And it helps the student share more about their own identity as well. So I would be very excited to read this essay. So we've talked a little bit about forming a prompt and forming some ideas to create a really strong essay. What questions do you all have about building a really strong college essay? If you have questions, feel free to add them to the chat or to our Q&A.
Logan, I think I have another question for you.
Yeah.
What about an essay that I have already written? What about an essay that I wrote for my AP World History class? Would that be a good college essay?
Maybe not the best college essay. I know that you all do a lot of writing in your classes, so you may be tempted to take a piece of writing that you feel really proud of and submit that as your college application essay. That's great if it showcases some of your writing skills. But remember when we first started talking about the college essay, we talked about how this is the only place in your application where you get to express in your own words who you are and what you want to accomplish in college. That's why you may want to use a specific piece of writing that you are creating specifically for the college application. Because as much as we really love to hear about Shakespeare and House on Mango Street and the Odyssey, we really want to hear about you. Oh, and I see that we have a question in the chat. How do you write an essay about a specific challenge? That is a really great question. So if I was writing an essay about a challenge, I would make sure it was structured in 3 different parts. 1, explaining what that challenge was, like what happened, lay out the scenario. In the second part, I talk about how that challenge influenced me, what I learned from it, or what that challenge's effect on my life was. And then that third part, most importantly, I would talk about how that challenge and what you've learned from it have influenced what you want to do with the future. Because when we're reading these college essays, we really want to understand who you are now and then what you want to do in college as well and how you would fit into our college communities. Faith, is there anything you'd want to add to that?
I think that's amazing. I think the only thing I would have to not even add, but really emphasize in Logan's answer is that you want to give context for the challenge and how it came up. And you want to make sure that everyone who's reading your essay is on the same page, but at the same time, you ultimately want this essay to be about you and how you experienced or overcame or handled or dealt with that challenge, and not about the challenge itself. I think sometimes students have something really impactful happen to them, and there are a lot of details that might go into that story. But ultimately, you only have 650 words to really explain who you are as a person. So as much as we want to hear maybe context clues about the specific challenge or things that you might have gone through dealing with that challenge or that specific person, ultimately we want to hear about you and how you experienced that. So making sure that you spend time giving context, but that also you spend the majority of time talking about your experience of that challenge. It looks like we have another question, Logan. Let's see. Do you look for connections between the main essay and short answer supplemental questions? Should the essays be connected holistically? I love this question. Really good question. I think that a few things that I think Logan actually was going to touch on as we're kind of moving into, it moves us pretty seamlessly into talking about the short answer questions. The short answer and supplemental questions are specific to Agnes Scott. They are a piece of your application that is going to be sent directly to us here at Agnes Scott and nowhere else. So Logan will touch on it, but some of them are kind of related to us here at Agnes Scott community, things like that. Whereas your Common App essays, your main essay that you're writing is going to be sent to all of the different schools that you are potentially applying to. And so while they might be connected, you might touch on like a similar a callback to your main essay and your short answer questions. Ultimately, you want your college essay, your main Common App essay, to be applicable to all the schools that you're applying to. So as much as we love a shout out, we want to make sure that you know that all of the schools are going to be reading that Common App essay that you're writing. So I think ultimately it's up to you. There might be a really important idea that you feel like you talked about in your short answer or your main essay that you want to highlight again in your short answer essays. But I also will say these are 2 separate spaces. And so I'm sure you as a person, students do, have so many cool and awesome things that you want to talk about. So there are separate spaces to talk about different things if you also want to bring up different things of your experience as well. But that was a really great question. And we have another one.
Yeah, I think since we were already talking about short answers, let's share a little bit more about how to be really successful in those Agnes Scott supplemental short answers. Then I am happy to come back to more questions about the college essay as a whole. So like Faith was mentioning, the Agnes Scott supplemental section comes after you've finished the rest of the common application that's going to all of the colleges that you apply to. So when you're doing these short answers, they're really an opportunity to get specific about what it is about Agnes Scott that really makes you interested. Our first short answer question itself is actually, why did you choose to apply to Agnes Scott? And then there are fun questions like, if you could travel anywhere, where would you like to travel? Who is a leader you admire? And then what global issues are really impactful for you? And then how do you expect to address them during your time at college? So these are really opportunities and avenues for you to showcase what you've learned about Agnes Scott. So if you've been on our website and Summit really stood out to you, this is a really great place to interweave any of the programs or specific experiences that you're looking forward to at Agnes Scott, as long as you're also answering the answers of themselves. Sorry, the questions themselves. And similarly to the essay, your writing skills are also being showcased in your short answers as well. Like the college essay itself, we're not looking for you to have absolutely perfect grammar, but we just want the quality of your short answers to reflect the time and intention and importance of the college application essay. So it's important to still be thinking about grammar as you're writing these and to proofread your short answers as well. Because like you can see in this example on our PowerPoint, even in a short sentence or statement, it's easy to make mistakes. So make sure you are still proofreading. And lastly, going back to our previous question, the goal of the short answers is to tell us about you and share more about you. We want to get an idea of how you would fit into our community. So this is a really great opportunity to share additional interests and perspectives that you weren't able to talk about elsewhere in the essay. I think it's important to try to bring in more aspects of your character because we know that you all are really well-rounded students. So you can either use these short answers as an opportunity to re-emphasize something you've talked about earlier in your essay and share more information about that aspect of your character, or share different perspectives of who you are as a student and add additional information so that we can get a wider picture of how you would be as an Agnes Scott student. I would think from both Faith and my perspective, reading the short answers is one of our favorite parts of reviewing essays because it really does offer the students the opportunity to shine as individuals. So let's talk about some of the questions that we've gotten so far. And about like the general college essay, I see that there was a question about what sort of things should you remove from a college essay when you exceed the word limit? And what should be prioritized? Great question.
This is a great question. And I think I have a few things that actually come to my mind. One of them being again, and I mentioned it before, but I'll mention it again. This is an essay about you. As much as we love to hear about other people in your life, or as much as we want that context about the situation or the person and the challenge that you were able to overcome, I think if you are kind of struggling to think about what pieces are the most important, you are the most important in this essay. And so if there are like extraneous pieces of context or things like that, that you feel like you could read the essay and understand the situation without those pieces, I think those would be kind of my first to go. I also think thinking about prioritizing I think it sometimes can help to take a step back and maybe conceptualize what is the ultimate message that you're trying to get across. Being able to answer that so what or why question in just a few sentences or a sentence even can help you kind of make sure that all of the different pieces, all of the parts that are a part of your essay are leading us back to that answering that why question. So sometimes it can help me if I take a step back and kind of look at it a little bit more bigger picture and make sure that all of the pieces are falling in within that why. So those are kind of some things that come to my mind. Logan, do you have anything else you feel like you would prioritize if you're trying to cut down on words?
No, I think that's a really great idea. Your point about trying to imagine what you really want to convey in this essay, and like what is the point of this essay that you're writing, and then cutting anything kind of extraneous to that.
Yeah, and I think that's why I emphasize and say that I think it takes time to kind of get through all of these pieces. So you might might need to spend some time cutting down your essay if you have an essay, or you might need to spend some time, some dedicated few days in it, and then take a step back and do other things, and then come back and look at it with fresh eyes. So the more time that you're able to dedicate or like sit down and spend, even if you can just do like 20 minutes a day for a few days, kind of helping you get through some of those bigger picture ideas, I think is helpful as you're kind of getting to the end when you're going to hit submit.
And it looks like we have another question about what are the most common topics you have received on college essays? That's a really interesting question because although the Common Application has 7 prompts to choose from, every single response is so different than the last. I think we get a lot of really cool essays about experiences and extracurriculars. Like there's always like a classic sports essay about like how basketball or volleyball or softball has really influenced a student's time in high school, and we love to see those. There's also really great essays about what students want to do and what experiences have helped inform like some of their professional and academic and career goals. Those are some of my favorite essays to read.
Yeah, I think it is really true, Logan, what you said. I truthfully don't know if I can be like, here's some common topics, because I feel like even though there are just those 7 prompts, students are really able to bring like so much of themselves that there's such a wide variety of things that students talk about. I think often what we are seeing is students are kind of making sense of their high school experience, and there are so many different pieces of every single student's high school experience. But I would say that's probably the most common is something that happened to a student while they were in high school and kind of making sense of that experience.
Yeah. Oh, and something I do want to share on this topic is I know that there's like some common myths and ideas around the college application process. And one of my least favorite ones is this idea that in order to get into college, you have to have this really traumatic backstory, and only people who have had really traumatic instances are able to get into college and get scholarships to college. And that's definitely not the case at Agnes Scott. We want you to write about the experiences that best represent you and share the experiences that you're comfortable with sharing. So you don't have to write about the worst thing that's ever happened to you in your college essay. You can write about the best thing that's ever happened to you, or some of the experiences that really just inform who you are. And that's what we're looking for in the essay. So don't feel like you have to share anything you're not comfortable with sharing.
I think that is true. And I think this is a really great time to explore ideas. And so if you have a thing that you feel like is really important, but you've never just had time to sit down and think about this specific idea, or you've always had this thought that you feel like you really want to expand on, and you just, again, have never had the space to do those things, I think this is a great place to do that, with the caveat of making sure ultimately that somebody else is reading your essay as well. I think for the most part, you shouldn't submit your essay without having at least another pair of eyes on it. If that is a supporter, a high school teacher, even your counselor, having somebody else read over it to make sure that number one, a second set of eyes for any grammar or spelling errors that you might have missed. And then also to make sure that it is really shining through your voice, and that you, what you're trying to convey is ultimately really getting across in that essay.
Ooh, a question again. One of the short answer questions asks about a favorite book we have read. Is this limited to actual books, or can other types of literature, such as poems and webcomics, be discussed? Ooh, I would love to read about a poem or webcomic that you've read.
Yes, I echo the same thing. I think we, as an admission team, often get our book recommendations or poems or webcomics. There are like some most popular books, I feel like that usually come up. But every once in a while, there are things that we are like, oh my goodness, I've never heard of it. It sounds so interesting. We have to read it. And so, yes, if your favorite piece of literature is a poem or webcomic, please share those as well.
Are there any other questions out there about structuring the short answers, the types of information that should be included, proofreading your college essay, or anything else we've talked about? So I think I have a question for you now that we're talking about short answers. I'm remembering that one of our short answer questions is, why did you choose to apply to Agnes Scott? And as an Agnes Scott alum, why did you choose to apply to Agnes?
Yeah, again, it feels, looking back, it feels like quite a long time ago, even though it truthfully wasn't that long ago, that I was going through the college search process. I actually chatted to someone about Agnes Scott at a college fair, which is very funny now that I often go to college fairs and get to talk to students about Agnes Scott, but that was my first introduction to Agnes Scott. And one of the things that the person that I was talking to, the admission counselor that I was talking to, really highlighted about Agnes Scott was our mission statement, which states educating students to think deeply, live honorably, and engage the social and intellectual challenges of their times. And she really kind of highlighted some pieces of the mission statement. I think, engaging in the world around you and being invested in social justice and things like that, that I felt like really just drew me into the college itself. I think if you are ever visiting campus and have heard me give the presentation before you got on tour, I often say, there are a lot of similarities across the board that you are most likely going to do no matter what college you choose. You're most likely going to eat in a dining hall and have a roommate and go to classes and things like that. But something about this community and this commitment to values really stood out to me. And I knew I knew I didn't know who I was going to become as a college student, but I knew that I was really interested in stepping into a community that had this kind of foundation of values and people who were also interested in these things. And so I feel like I can truthfully say that I was able to really live out that mission statement and grow into that mission statement during my time as an Agnes Scott student.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you all for your amazing questions. This feels like a really good place to wrap up. So thank you so much for coming and spending your evening with us. And we really hope to see you again soon. If you are really enjoying our series of virtual workshops, we are having another workshop Wednesday on November 1st at 7 p.m. where we will be talking about Agnes Scott scholarships and financial aid. So if you are interested in hearing more about some of the fantastic scholarship programs that we have going on this year, feel free to attend that November 1st virtual webinar. And if you'd like to come see us in person or learn more about the Agnes Scott student experience virtually, you can join us for one of our Great Scott open house events. Our in-person Great Scott will be on Saturday, November 11th. This is a great opportunity to tour campus, meet with current students, and hear about some of the experiences you can expect to have over the 4 years at Agnes. And if you prefer virtual, and if virtual is your way to go, we're also having a virtual version of our Great Scott Open House on Saturday, November 18th. So if you'd like to learn more about any of these opportunities or sign up to attend, you can head to the webpage on the bottom of your screen, agnescott.edu/visit. Awesome. Well, thank you all again so much for joining us. We hope to see you again. If you have any questions following today's session, feel free to reach out to us at the admissions office. It's just admission@agnescott.edu, or you can reach out to your specific admission counselor, and we'd be happy to share more. All right, thanks for coming, everyone. Have a good night.